learn about solving inequalities today. The first thing you need to do is put your name, the period, and the date on your paper. So the goal that we are going to be doing is the same goal that we have had this entire time. It's the same one that we have had when solving equations. The goal is to get the variable by itself. And the reason we want to get the variable by itself is because then we can find out what the variable actually means, what it actually represents. Like x equals 6 tells us that x is 6. The whole point of doing and solving inequalities and solving equations is to find out what that variable means. Okay, so an inequality is a mathematical sentence that uses symbols such as greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to. So I'm just going to write the symbols here because there's not enough space. Okay, this chart here, I expect you to know this chart. Okay, so you need to memorize this if you don't already know these. Because at this point, as an 8th grader, you are expected to know what every single one of these mean. In saying that, I know some of you may not have learned this yet, and that is perfectly fine, but you're going to have to take the extra time to memorize those because it is expected that you know them. Alright. So, now we're going to practice just graphing regular inequalities that we don't have to solve. So the first thing is you need to know how to read that. So this first one is read as x is greater than 3. Alright, x is greater than 3. And the reason we read that is because that is the greater than sign. The next one we are going to say x is less than 2. Okay, that's how that is read. Okay, this one is going to be x is less than or equal to 4. And then this last one is going to be x is greater than or equal to 1. Okay, so the first thing that we do when we are graphing these inequalities is we look at that number that it gives you. That's our rock star number. It's going to go in the middle of the line. So our first rock star number is 3. So I'm going to put 3 in the middle of the line. And then I'm going to fill in the other side. So whenever we go to the right, it's going to get bigger. Whenever we go to the left, it's going to get smaller and go into negatives. Okay, our next rock star number is 2. Right here, it's 2. So we are going to put 2 in the middle. And again, we're going to get bigger as we go to the right and smaller as we go to the left. Okay, our next rock star number is 4. So we're going to put 4 in about the middle and fill it in. Okay, and then our next one is 1. So we're going to put 1 in the middle and fill it in. Now to the actual graphing part. So our first one is going to be 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a circle at 3. Now we have to decide, is 3 greater than 3? Okay, 3 is not bigger than 3. So we're going to leave that as an open circle because 3 does not actually count. So now we're going to look at this side and we're going to say, is 4 greater than 3? Yeah, that's true. 4 is bigger than 3. 5 is bigger than 3. 6 is bigger than 3. All of these numbers are going to be bigger than 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to color in on top of it like we're highlighting it. And we're going to make sure we get this arrow because any number that's going up in that direction is going to be bigger than 3. Okay, next one, we have x is less than 2. So we're going to put a circle on 2. Let's see, is 2 less than 2? No, it's not. So we're going to leave this circle wide open because 2 does not actually count. And now I'm going to plug in numbers. 1 is less than 2, 0 is smaller than 2, negative 1 smaller than 2. So I'm going to color my line in this direction. And I can always check it because 3 is not less than 2. So I know I colored my line in the right direction. We're coloring the line in the direction that represents the numbers that are true. And now you can plug in. Okay, our next one is less than or equal to 4. So because it's less than or equal to, we're going to color this in because 4 is equal to 4. Okay, so this line means equal. And 4 is equal to 4, so I get to color it in. Okay, now 3 right here is going to be less than or equal to 4. 2 is going to be less than or equal to 4, so I'm going to color this way. Okay, our last one, again, is a greater than or equal to sign. 1 is greater than or equal to 1, so I'm going to put a colored in circle because 1 counts. Okay, and then I am going to color this way because all these numbers are bigger than 1. Okay. So, go ahead and try to fill in these examples. What you're going to do is you're going to come up with an inequality. So I am going to do 2 of them, and then I want you to do 3 by yourself and check yourself. So, I'm going to use T because it says you must be at least 42 inches tall to ride the roller coaster. So I'm going to use T for tall and 42 inches. If you're going to be at least 42 inches tall, that means that anything bigger than 42 works. Then you can be 42 inches too, so we're going to put the equal sign on the bottom. So like if you're 52 inches tall, you can ride the roller coaster. Okay, so your height just has to be bigger or equal to 42. Next one is you have to be at least 16 years old to legally drive. So we have your years old, 16, and since you have to be at least, you have to be 16 or bigger, okay? So 16 or bigger. The last one here is you have to be 3 years old or younger to, sorry, I read that wrong. Children under 3 years old eat free. So we're going to use a less than sign. We're not doing less than or equal to because it's younger than 3 years old. If you're 3, you don't get to eat free. You have to be younger. Okay, so you are going to come up with your own example and show me. So you're going to raise your hand when you come up with your own example. All right, so we solve inequalities the same way you solve an equation. Except one thing. When you multiply and divide, something different happens. Okay, I want you to do this experiment. So do this by yourself or with a partner. And then try to figure out what happens. Okay? Try to figure out what happens. And when you think you've figured out what happens, you're going to check with me. So right now you're going to pause the video and try to figure that out. Alright, you should have gotten, you need to change the inequality symbol when you multiply or divide by a negative number. So that's a rule that needs to be memorized. And we came up with that rule by finding the concept behind it. Okay, let's do some examples. Basically, we are solving two-step equations. The only difference is we have a symbol. So, I'm going to draw my line down the middle. I'm going to write my acronym. Okay, I don't have any parentheses, so I'm going to cross that off. I don't have to combine any like terms on my side, so I'm going to cross that off. I do have some addition and subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides because that cancels this out. And I'm left with 3x is less than negative 30. Okay, now I'm I'm going to get rid of some multiplication and division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3 because 3 times x, the opposite of that's division. These 3's cancel out and we're left with x is less than negative 10. So we are pulling this sign, and because we didn't divide by a negative, it's going to stay that sign. Okay, then we're going to graph it. I'm going to graph it quickly so you can check your answer. You should be able to do it on your own. Okay, we're going to have an open circle, and then all of these are less than x. Alright. I want you to go ahead and try to complete the rest of the examples without me because I know that you do know how to solve two-step equations. If you are having trouble, you need to be asking your neighbor and then asking me. Okay? So you're just solving two-step equations and then graphing it. Now remember, okay, and I'm going to highlight this. You should highlight it on your paper too. If you multiply or divide both sides by a negative, you need to change the sign. Okay? So, for example, if I did negative 2x is less than 4 and I divide it by negative 2, I would have to flip my sign. Okay? See how I flipped that there? Okay, so go ahead and do those examples. Check with a partner and then check with me.